Right, welcome everyone. We have just finished the ninth Future Leaders Program of DLD, or the Development Leadership Dialogue, which is a new institute set up in SOAS, University of London. Yeah, today we have four speakers from the workshop who are all amazing people in their own fields with different expertise and long experiences. We first have Minister Rob Davies, who was the Minister of Department of Trade and Industry in South Africa, currently called Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. But Rob was one of the main trade negotiators for the Global South countries, representing not just his own country, but the whole South Group. And then we have Rachel Thrasher, the professor at Boston University, who's an incredible expert on international trade and investment laws. And we have Jose Miguel Ahumada, who's at the moment professor at the University of Chile, but he was the deputy foreign minister in charge of international trade in the first cabinet of the Boric government in Chile. And last but not least, we have our own Liz Mate, who is our senior researcher, a very seasoned campaigner and researcher on issues of global trade justice. So we have an incredible lineup. In a way, this lineup reflects what DLD is trying to achieve. I mean, DLD was set up specifically to bring people from different segments of the development community, government, academia, the private sector, NGOs, and international organizations. And our list of speakers in this workshop are particularly represented at well. I mean, of course, we couldn't have everyone, so we have the selection of people here. But so at DLD, we try to bring people with different experiences, different perspectives, different outlooks. And our flagship event is the Future Leaders Program, where we bring people with 10, maybe 15 years of experiences in different sectors, who will be hopefully in some kind of leadership position in the next 5 to 10 years, and have them come and engage in collective learning, debates, the exchange of information, and building of networks. So this ninth one that we have done was on policy space for developing countries in the new global industrial policy landscape. Because as you all know, in the last decade or so, but especially in the last year or so, with the advent of Trump administration in the US, the global system of international trade and investment that had been put in place with the 1990s, especially with the launch of the WTO, has been upended. Now we don't even know what the rules are. The countries are breaking these rules center, left, and right, and I mean a lot of developing countries are lost. So we had this 3.5 days of discussion on what is really going on, how things are changing, what can you do, what can you not do, are you really aware of what you can do, and so on, in terms of the trade and industrial policy. So, I mean, you are all the very seasoned researchers and the practitioners in these areas, but was there anything that kind of you found surprising or unexpected in our workshop? Jose Miguel, what did you think?
I think that one of the most interesting part, I think, of this program and days that we've been discussing is that there's so many different experiences coming from different countries with a different perspective, right? But with a common goal, that is to advance towards more development in the global South countries. I think that variety of experiences and country, government, from academia, from policymakers and so on, provide this space a unique opportunity to link so many different fields in order to do a good policy making for development. Yes.
Yeah. How about you, Rob? You must have been in so many different forums, but what did you find particularly interesting?
I think that what I thought was interesting was the relatively unique way in which you managed to combine two things. So I think targeting young people in the start of their careers or who are likely to rise up is a correct thing to do. And there are quite a number of programs that are doing that. But at the same time, you have like a workshop seminar, which would either be for the participants or you might put it online or something. But it wouldn't be for the young people who are in training, as it were. And I think that this is what was, I thought, important about the model, was you managed to integrate both those elements in a single event.
Yeah.
So I think that that was what I found to be unique, not surprising.
So we had quite lively discussion with people participating, bringing very different experiences and perspectives and so on. I hope that this continues, because it's not exactly easy to put together something like this. But what would you say were your main takeaways, Rachel, from this workshop?
It's a good question. There are so many takeaways. I would say one major one is the outsized role of geopolitical forces. This is something that I have started to think about, but had not really understood until I was hearing the very specific experiences of the participants and some of the other contributors on the panels. The other thing that struck me is that the policy space is both broader and narrower than I thought. So in one way it's broader in that policy options are much bigger than the narrow lists of industrial policies that I've seen in the academic literature. There are many, many creative solutions. And narrower in that there were some trade and investment treaties and other agreements that I hadn't thought of as problematic, but because of some things I learned from Liz, for example, about EU EPAs, I was able to see that some of those are also more concerning than I realized. And so I think I learned both increasing breadth and also increasing narrowness.
That's a great point. Liz, you've been in this space for 3 decades. I don't want to emphasize that the chronological thing too much, but what did you think what the things that you kind of couldn't hear in other workshops and you could find out here?
I mean, I think the thing with these Future Leaders programs is that it is quite difficult to tell in the discussions who are the speakers and who are the participants, and it is genuinely a case of everybody learning from each other in ways that they didn't necessarily expect. So it's quite nice to watch, maybe some of the academics or maybe somebody from industry really have their eyes open to something, but by somebody who's a practitioner. So I mean, this week was no exception to that. I mean, in terms of the takeaways, I think there was quite consensus around the problems created by bilateral investment treaties and in particular by ISDS, and it's something that I've worked on for a number of years, but there did seem to be kind of a coalescence of concern around that, which I hope is something that the participants and some of the speakers as well will take away and maybe act on, maybe sort of together, look at how we can form coalitions, etc. So that was something really encouraging. Just a kind of a spotlight on something that we can work on that is a clear and present danger.
Yes. How about you, Jose Miguel? What would be your main takeaways?
I think that the need for a political and economic vocabulary that can be used by policymakers in order to build a narrative that can help us to advance these kind of agendas. And these spaces, this workshop can, I think, open the door for, on the one hand, bring these ideas that many academics have been working on this, also the experience of policymakers, of NGOs, and also the discussion that we've been having about strategy, how to discuss with other agents. I think opens the door for trying to create a narrative that can support negotiations and agendas for development policy in our country.
But Rob, I mean, you had so much experience both in the academia and in the government and all these international meetings, but hopefully you've also had something to take away from this.
Yeah, I think I came here with an understanding that the multilateral trading system, which had been defied increasingly over the last decade or so, was now being completely upended, and that had inadvertently opened up policy space which some developing countries were seizing. And so in a way that was a positive, but at the same time I think we begin to recognize that there are contradictory forces and pressures at work. So there was always a power relationship, an uneven and unequal power relationship, even in the rules-based system, where the developed world was making the rules to its own advantage. But now we've got an unmediated exercise of power in bilateral, I wouldn't even call them negotiations, bilateral diktats from the most important economies in the world to the rest of the world. And at the same time, I think the uncertainty and the chaos that's being created is creating a whole lot of new imperatives. So I think we can see the direction of where we need to move. I think we need to move into much more emphasis on the kind of policy space-driven industrial policy measures, building on regional economic communities and so on. I think what's not so clear is the leadership and the political processes that are going to take us there. And I think that's how I've come out of this last few days.
Now, if there's one feasible advice that you'd like to give to developing countries, what would that be? I mean, well, you don't have to answer this, but if you have any, please.
Sure. I mean, I think one of the themes that did come out quite strongly was the need for countries to develop a clear economic and industrial strategy, and for that to be the starting point for their trade strategy, and everything else should flow from that.
That's right.
So, start there. I mean, the other thing that came out pretty clearly was that there's plenty of other examples of really innovative use of policy space, whether it's from Chile, we heard about Uruguay, we heard really interesting examples from Indonesia, Ecuador. So, for policymakers to kind of look up and look around and see, and learn from each other and take a bit of heart from each other as well, I think. And one other thing that came out again and again was this idea of asking for forgiveness but not asking for permission. So go ahead and do something, try it, because the chances are nobody's going to challenge you, certainly not in this current environment. So give it a go. So, kind of that call for boldness, I suppose.
Rob, do you have any?
So I would say that we're going through important transitions. One of those is a transition to a lower carbon economy. And I think that it's widely expressed in the Global South that we cannot come out of this at the end as just mere producers and exporters of primary commodities. We have primary commodities. We've got to be able to leverage that to move into value-added activities. This is not going to happen just because we have them. Investors are going to like it and want to move in and build batteries or whatever it is. We're going to have to use policy tools, industrial policy tools. We're probably going to have to collaborate in regions, but also reinforce each other across the Global South in the measures that we are taking. And so I think it's a question of building new coalitions, building new momentum, political momentum in support of a new round of green industrialization. If we don't, I fear that for the Global South, this transition will be highly unjust. It will not be a just transition merely because someone gives us a bit of money to support people who are going to lose jobs in fossil fuel industries. It's going to have to be met with we come out with industries in place that are going to employ people and raise living standards.
Rachel?
One of the best parts about this last week has been one-on-one conversations with participants in particular contexts. And as a person who's never been in a position of making a policy before, I get very concerned about telling them what to do. But what I found and what gave me a lot of hope is that they often had innovative solutions already at their fingertips. And so what I saw were people thinking outside of the box and being creative. And realizing again that the policy space, the number of options, the range of options is much bigger than we realized. And so, without it being advice, I just want to encourage people that they often have solutions close to them.
That's great. Yeah.
I think that a general view would be like to think with our own heads, to think originally, to develop our own ideas on this, to articulate with other countries in our region, and to learn how to use the tools and the power that we have available to gain better terms in the negotiation, for example, with other countries. So I think, like in general view, like it would be like to learn and think with our own head and mind. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. So. Thank you, Rob, Rachel, Jose Miguel, Liz, for coming to this workshop and really inspiring our participants. Hope we will have many more opportunities like this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.